Hi, I am Kevin Robb. I am 21 years old, and I am an engineering physics major with a computer science minor at the University of Oklahoma.
Ruthie, I'm 13 years old.
Okay.
Adriana, I'm 13.
Aubrey,
I'm 13.
And
My name is Reba Odom. I am a junior studying English at the University of Southern Indiana.
okay, name,
Brianna Duncan,
age,
13.
Duavion, 13.
Tayson, 13.
Vincent, 14.
ooh, old guy. And so first questions first. Have you ever been treated differently because you were a girl?
Yes.
All right, tell me about that.
Well, both of us have been they've been talking to us about our bodies, saying that our butts are shaped like triangles, like upside down triangles, and just making really rude comments. Yeah, and that just happened just now. And they drew pictures and they imitated us walking in the classroom yesterday.
Is that something that happens often?
Yeah, sometimes.
They've been doing it for a couple weeks now.
Okay, do you have any instances where you were treated different because you were a girl?
Yes.
You want to tell me about those?
It was at a barrel race, and and I went to run, and they all start calling me that me and my horse would not win because I was a girl and couldn't control someone. And then I beat them.
All right, guys.
Senior citizen.
Can you think of any instances where you were treated different because you were a girl, or you guys were treated different because you're guys?
Yes.
All right, tell me about it.
Like elementary school, whenever the teachers always ask the boys to help with the boxes or something instead of the girls.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Do you guys have any? Have you ever seen girls being treated kind of different?
Yeah, like if you show emotion, or like say someone's making fun of you or something, and you start to show emotion, you'd be like, oh, you're a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They just,
Or like when someone's girls but they don't have a strong arm or something, they'll say go throw
Yeah,
like a
you
girl,
go like a
but
girl
girls could
or
just throw
something.
just as guys usually.
Yeah, exactly.
An instance that I was treated differently because I was a girl was I video weddings, like on the side, and sometimes my fiance comes and helps me just because I like him to help me carry my stuff, and it's a lot easier when you have a second shooter. And every single time I introduce myself to people, like the brides and the grooms, they always address my fiance first. And they talk to him and ask him questions as if he is the one who is doing the work, when I am the one who does it and he knows absolutely nothing about the work. It can be pretty frustrating sometimes.
I think that most people definitely do not take women as seriously as they take men, which is kind of the big problem. Generally, I think there's things within the field where people think that women, I don't know, don't belong in the field or something like that, and they just generally don't respect them, or anything that it could be. Just people generally have their minds stuck in this whole patriarchal state where they think that the man's word is better or something dumb. And I remember distinctly a conversation I had with one of my male professors my freshman year, and he's pretty awesome. He had this whole thing where he said that you should not call me by my first name because then students will think it's okay to call professors by their first name, and they'll do it for their female professors who worked hard and got their doctorate and really deserve to be called doctor, etc., rather than by their first name. So rather than kind of having the opposite standard where letting students call him Eric instead of Dr. Abraham, he kind of wanted to set the standard so that people wouldn't kind of think that that's okay and then disrespect the female professors who worked really hard to get where they're at and probably worked a lot harder than any of the male professors because of again the system that they have to work against. And then especially in engineering, it's really rough because the system is really stacked against women, so they do have to work harder to get to the same place as men. And then even if they do get to the same place, people still don't respect them as much. So when women do kind of fall behind in their classes because they have this extra expectations on them, or if they're just falling behind because class is hard and everyone falls behind, then people instead of saying like, oh, they're just having a hard time this semester because like fluid dynamics is hard, they'll say, oh, like they're a woman, that's, see, they're not doing great, this is why they shouldn't be in the field. And I hear a lot of this kind of stuff in the College of Engineering, and I really try to push against it. So obviously I think everyone should be treated equally, and if anything, like the women should be getting more respect, because it takes a lot to kind of come out on top of the situation that they're up against.
Take women. Do you think people take women as seriously as they take men?
No, like you can't play certain sports if you're a girl
because
because they think that they're better.
You're not strong enough.
Mm-hmm. Or even just like how everybody seems to treat Miss Ward. Like, if it were a male teacher, would it be different?
Yes, because they're like scarier.
You guys think girls are taken as seriously as guys?
Yeah. It depends on what situation or area like we're talking about.
Where's your locker?
Like in sports, people say girls can't play and stuff, and they say girls are weak and like they just cry all the time.
Like, if Miss Ward were a man, do you think she'd be treated the same as she is now?
Yeah. Oh wait, no.
No.
Say
If she was mean, Mr.
Yeah,
Johnson's in there, everybody would be quiet because he's
everyone will follow.
he
But
gets mad.
we think we
so-
take advantage, basically.
Yeah, people take more advantage of that.
Yeah, because she doesn't
So you
know
do you think you're taken less seriously because you're a woman? Like, do you think men are taken more seriously than women in general?
Depends on like the situation. Like old days, like the witchcraft, they wouldn't believe women and to vote, but now they're like, maybe we should listen to them and understand them. And
I do not think that people take women as seriously as they take men, just because of that instance that I had mentioned and because of other many things. Just like I have almost all women managers, and people always say, can I speak to your manager? When is he coming out here? Etc. They don't ever say, when is she coming out here? They just automatically assume somebody of higher authority is going to be a man.
Think women are equal in terms of education now?
no, because in different countries, women are not allowed to have education.
And I know also there's like controversy with like the STEM subjects about how they're more male dominated. Have you guys noticed any of that?
Yes.
At this
Like
school,
they don't have no national sports other than like basketball, like women's NBA, like for like girls and stuff. But they
or cheer.
Yeah, WNBA.
Yeah.
Or cheer.
Yeah, but like for they don't have as much rights and stuff as we do.
A Redder that I look up to the most is Sishu. And mostly because she goes about her work in different ways. She doesn't consider herself a feminist, but she's definitely pro-feminine. And she is always sticking up for women, but not in the violent, protesty way that some feminists can get into. Probably just because I am all pro-woman, but kind of like I said, I'm also not very protesty when it comes to feminist rights and all that stuff, but I am definitely all about it, and I'm willing to let my voice be heard towards it.
Kind of push for education for everyone, and have that education be more inclusive. And there's a really good point that Adrienne Rich actually made in a commencement address she gave back in the 1980s, I think, where she kind of talks about that it's of course important to have like female role models and female teachers and things like that in schools, so that people will have those people to look up to. But just because you have a female teacher doesn't mean that you're getting the best and most equal education that you could. So even if your teachers are female, if they're still teaching you kind of the accepted like Western canon, so like you're reading books written by mostly white men, and you're kind of just getting all the talking points and the view of history that like white men set in place, then even though you have that female teacher, you're not really getting much more than you would from like a male teacher, because it's the material that's being taught that needs to be updated, of course, as well as the people doing the actual teaching. So yeah, I would definitely love for a system or changes to be made such that everyone can be equal, and like little girls are encouraged, like not just kind of permitted to, but encouraged to follow their passions. Go into those hard fields that originally they would have been pushed out of, and just to kind of do what they want to do. As I kind of mentioned in my answer to the previous question, I think education is the most important thing for ushering in changes for the future. Claiming your education and kind of getting out of it what you want is the most important part of growing up and finding your place in society. And if we don't make sure that everyone kind of has access to this same equal education and the best possible education, then we are doing a disservice to the generations that will come after us. Historically, women have definitely had lower access to education, if any access to education, compared to men. And that has, of course, improved since then. The 20th century saw women get the right to vote, and a lot of segregation and discrimination kind of start to come to an end. So I think modern day is one of the best time periods that we've had to strive for equality among genders and races and things like that. But in terms of educational opportunities, we still are lacking. We do have the public education system, which is guaranteed and is there for a lot of people, but it is still hard for people who live in rural communities to get access to education. And even if you have access to the education, then it's not guaranteed that the system is going to work with you, that you're going to have a good time going through the educational system. And a lot of women are probably discouraged by the whole way that the educational system is run. And then in terms of even more educational opportunities, like going on from high school to college to graduate school, it's always hard to get opportunities for those things like fellowships and even tenure. And these opportunities are historically and in the modern day held back from women. For example, in our physics department, we have maybe 30 physics majors in our class, probably about a third of which are women. And in the entire faculty of the Department of Physics and Astronomy, there are 3 female professors out of the dozens and dozens of total professors. So even as students in undergrad, we can kind of see ahead to graduate school and how there's very few female grad students, and then see even further ahead to the professorship, where there's very few female faculty members, only one of whom has tenure. So it just kind of allows you to look ahead and see what's in store for you and how hard it is going to be. And I think that is really discouraging for a lot of women moving forwards. And as a result of that, I know some people who've kind of changed their paths and are planning to go into industry or just stay away from academia because of how horrible the system is.
I would like to see women standing in office in the future, higher up in office, such as the president or something along those lines. I know women have come a great long way, and it's amazing, but I also think women can continue to excel.